All right, this is Docendo Discumus number 6. Here's our sentence we had last time with our words philanthropist and remember the other word was misanthrope. Again, it's always good to look back and ask yourself how well you understood those words. I also gave you a little sneak preview here. We're looking for 2 words, 2 adjectives. One is highly favorable. Be nice to have one word for that instead of 2. And the second one is an adjective meaning standing out as clearly visible. Think of a word, an adjective that would describe something that is standing out as clearly visible. All right, well, here's our sentence. And again, now we're going to look at the sentence as editors. After he spilled coffee on his boss, Bill realized that it were not a auspicious time to ask for a raise. And the other word there that we're not using in the sentence is conspicuous. So first thing we might notice is an opening phrase, clause before the subject here. It looks like Bill is the subject. After he spilled coffee on his boss, Bill. Now, are we talking about the boss being Bill, or are we talking about Bill as the subject? So we need to clarify this. And I think what we're talking about is Bill is not the boss. Bill works for his boss. So I think we need a comma here. So again, after he, there's the subject, there's the verb, there's the subordinated conjunction. Therefore, this would be a dependent clause. And the subject is Bill. Bill realized, there's the predicate, the verb, that it were not an auspicious time to ask for a raise. Something sounds wrong there, doesn't it? We're talking about Bill realized that it were. No, we're talking here, the verb should be singular, right? It was not. It's one thing, not 2. Was not. We're talking about one time here, and it was not a auspicious time. And again, we've talked about this before. If you read your sentences aloud, you're going to catch this problem. The article is a, but because auspicious begins with a vowel sound, auspicious, it should be an. So let's try this now. After he spilled coffee on the boss, Bill realized that it was not an auspicious time to ask for a raise. Now it sounds much better. Just another note here, whenever you use a pronoun like this, it needs to be very clear. Okay, what does that pronoun refer to? That's called the antecedent. And again, based on this sentence, it should be fairly clear that we're talking about Bill is the one who spilled the coffee on his boss. All right, now let's look at the vocabulary. Auspicious is something that is highly favorable. That's an adjective. And conspicuous is something that stands out to be clearly visible. Now notice both these words have the same root that's from Latin. And it has to do with vision, to look. And there's lots of words that have that root in them. For example, conspicuous obviously is something we're watching and we're seeing as standing out. If something is inconspicuous, that means it doesn't stand out. Now, I can understand what conspicuous has to do with vision because it's standing out as visible. But the question is, something highly favorable, what does that have to do with vision? Well, it goes back to the history of the word. We call that the etymology of the word. And it goes back to a time before science when you had fortune tellers. Imagine you're the emperor, you want to know what's going to happen with the weather, with other things. You're probably more superstitious because you don't have science to rely on. So there were these guys called the auspices, and they were basically fortune tellers. And they would tell an emperor what was going to happen in the future. Is it going to be good news? Is it going to be bad news? And how did they do it? Well, they did it, believe it or not, by watching the flights of birds. Of course, there's all kinds of ways people have tried to predict the future, looking at the stars, looking at animal entrails. It just happens that the auspices looked at the birds. So down the road, that word evolved into our word here, which is auspicious. And again, you can see within that word is hidden kind of the fossil of that idea of looking. And of course, the AU there is kind of the same, probably the same root as Audubon, which has to do with birds, doesn't it? Just a little history there, but again, it makes the study of the word much more rich. When you see that word down the road, you realize that word has a long history to it. And it just helps you understand that word in a little bit deeper manner. Now, looking at this sentence, I think we have everything. We have a comma. We know why we did that. That's an opening dependent clause, separating it from the main independent clause. Now, I changed these around just to maybe make it a little bit more clear. Maybe it's good to mention Bill first to make sure there's no confusion. I think either way works, but that's the kind of style that is a question that you can deal with. But definitely we need a comma there. And then, of course, we need the singular verb here. And then we need the article "and" for auspicious. All right, and then finally, little sneak preview for next time. Number 7, what does a noun related to making up for doing something wrong have in common with a noun meaning freedom from punishment? See if you can think of some words that might relate to those two things. All right, and I'll see you next time.